This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by ERI. ERI has a mission to protect people, the planet, and your privacy, and is the largest fully integrated IT and electronics asset disposition provider and cybersecurity-focused hardware destruction company in the United States, and maybe even the world. For more information on how ERI can help your business properly dispose of outdated electronic hardware devices, please visit eridirect.com. Welcome to another edition of the Impact Podcast. This is a very special edition. So I've got a good friend of mine back from my hometown in New York City with us today. Coss Marte is with us today. He's the co-founder. He is the founder of ConBody. Welcome to the Impact Podcast, Coss.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you having me on the podcast, man. Thank you.
Of course. You're the CEO of ConBody. For our listeners and viewers that want to find you at ConBody, they can go to www.conbody.com, CONBODY.com. I'm in Fresno today, and you are literally in the town where my dad grew up on the Lower East Side of New York City. So it's always great to talk to one of my fellow homeboys from New York City. It's great to see you today, and technology allows us to be together even though we're not physically together today.
Absolutely. And thank you. You got to come back.
Of course. It's like family getting back together. You know, Coss, you have one of the most fascinating, the way when I think about you and what you've done already as a young man and what you've overcome already, you are the Rocky Balboa of your generation. And I say that only with love and kindness and respect and grace, because what you're doing is just fascinating, but what you've overcome is even more important. Can you talk a little bit about your genesis story, where you grew up, what you faced growing up, and then, and how you made it through those challenges and how you got here today? Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in the Lower East Side of New York City in the 80s and 90s. It was not a pretty neighborhood as you see now. It was a pretty tough, very drug-infested neighborhood. Crack, heroin was a huge epidemic over here. Growing up, I would literally see people lining up to buy, heroin coming out my building. And that's what I had to weed myself out of my building to go to school and see. So seeing that and seeing the guys that were selling drugs, and I had family members that were involved in it and selling, and that made me believe that was success, and as a kid, my mom immigrated from the Dominican Republic, pregnant with me. So I was born here, and we basically lived in a couch together. And as a kid, seeing everybody else even though we lived in a very poor community, but also seeing everybody else with something like a Game Boy at the time or an Atari was like something that I wanted, and I couldn't get it, because my mom always said I can't afford it. And that was the number one excuse, which was reality. Right. And it used to frustrate me. And it used to frustrate me enough that I had to get money on my own. As a kid, I remember going from door to door, knocking on neighbors' doors and asking them for their bottles and beer cans and exchanging them for nickels in the bodega, and stealing baseball cards out of the Economy candy store down here, which is funny. I went and gave them a couple $100 when I got out of prison. I was like, I'm paying you back.
Making amends to everybody. Making amends
with the hood.
I love it.
But yeah, as a kid growing up and seeing, what I thought success was, was making money and being successful on the street. I wanted to follow that path, and when people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I wanted to be rich. And I made a lot of money. At 19, I was making over $2 million a year. When did you start hustling? When did you start hustling in that world? At 13 years old. 13. Wow. Did you stay in school or drop out? I stood in school. I dropped out. I graduated high school, got accepted to college. That's great. I kicked out of college. But you made it through high school. Most don't. Yep. And you were just hustling. You start just building up your network from 13 to 19. Yeah. Wow.
Okay, keep going. Tell what
Yeah,
happened then. So then, how big was your network when you were 19?
Yeah, 19, I was making over $2 million a year. I was profiting that, and we were bringing in about $5 million in revenue. We were selling a kilo a week, averaging $90,000 to $100,000 a week in revenue, and it was just a crazy time. It was a crazy time. We thought we were on top of the world until everything ended. At 23 years old, I was sentenced to 7 years in prison. I went I was back and forth into the system since I was young. I was on probation, 13, 15, I did a year. So I was always in and out, and I felt like this was my life. I was gonna be successful.
You were stuck in that cycle, you figured.
Cycle, probation, parole, prison, and at that last prison stint, I just said I needed to change my mindset. But it was not until the doctors in prison told me that my cholesterol levels were through the roof that I started thinking and reflecting about my health. And they said if I don't start eating or exercising daily correctly, that I probably would die of a heart attack within 5 years. And being sentenced to 7 years and knowing that I was probably going to die in 5 years, I was like, nah, I'm not dying in prison. I need to work out. And so I worked out obsessively and lost 70 pounds in 6 months and just kept working out.
Okay. So did you look as good as you look today, but your insides were polluted from just the food you ate and the stress that you were under? Or were you overweight and also then had dietary issues as well?
Both. I was overweight. I had dietary issues. They placed me on medication. Yeah, I was not doing too well in the streets. When you're running around, you're not getting checked out by a doctor. I was smoking, I was drinking, I was partying, I was smoking packs of cigarettes a day and just eating street food, so I was just out there, and it was shocking for me to hear that,
Coss, we don't get many opportunities in this world to hear the voice of someone like you who was on top of the world financially, went to prison, and now is back out and working your way back up to the top of the world and going to make a big success on the other side. How bad, we all get to see prison from the Hollywood versions that are on television or Netflix or Amazon Prime or on the networks. What is it really like? And is the bad as bad as it seems? And are there parts of it that actually work in terms of rehabilitation, or is it a broken system?
All of the above. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, I get, in different cell blocks, different units. I was in Rikers Island for, a year and a half of my life. And that system is terrible. The showers, everything, the facility is just torn apart, and people are like side by side sleeping next to each other in a packed room. There's no privacy. It's inhumane. Yeah, absolutely. And then you go upstate, you go to state prison, and the facility is a little bit cleaner. You get more fresh air. Obviously, you're out of the city. But the programs, now they're bringing up more programs in the state prisons. But back then there was nothing. You had to do an ASAP program. There was a staff member from the street that was coming in to teach like a drug rehabilitation program. Even if you never use drugs, you have to take it. And most of the time they didn't care about it. It was just a paycheck. They came in, they had a certification, they tell you do this, do that, and they're out of there, and so they don't care, you don't care, you keep living your lifestyle, and I think the only person that could change oneself is oneself, I had to really reflect on myself to know that what I was doing was I was damaging my community and damaging my family members, damaging, most importantly, myself. My life was on the line. So I needed to wake up, and I needed to tell myself I need to stop. I need to figure something out.
So that first transformation was the first year you were in prison?
So the first year I was in prison, I was in Rikers Island.
Okay.
When you go to jail, you don't see a doctor. You know, they don't recheck you up like that. But once you're state property, you're property of the state. So you go on
Oh.
up state. The first thing they do the first day, they line you up. They take a whole bunch of blood work. You don't even know what the hell they taken or testing you for. They line you up. They put you in the shower. They make you take a shower naked in front of all these men, and you have to pour this special shampoo to kill supposedly lice and you know, if you have lice or whatever you have in your system.
Right.
They really strip search you, you know, and they treat you like cattle. You know, you just like line up, keep moving, get shot, get clean, and get in the cage, you know, and get moving, and that's basically it.
So that's where you lost 70 pounds.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. After 6 months.
So now you were there and you got healthy and you started seeing it in the mirror and feeling it. And what did you do with it from there? What was then the next step for you?
Yeah. So what happened next? I was in the prison yard, and I remember like running around the prison yard, and other inmates, you know, used to call me like Fat Forrest Gump,
Wow.
Cupcake, Honey Bun Jokes. I literally like stuck my middle finger up and just kept running. And I was just focused, you know, and I remember this guy named Bus, he was over 300 pounds. He was 320 pounds at the time. And he came up to me and he was like, yeah, I want to start running with you. And I was like, all right, let's start doing it, you know? And I was like, I didn't really care. I didn't think anything of it. And then two of his other friends started running with me. And then we eventually started forming a circle around me, and we started performing exercises, calisthenic stuff that I was doing in my prison cell alone. And it became a camaraderie builder. We was just holding each other accountable, screaming from cell to cell, say, yo, you going out to the yard? I see you there, bop, bop. And then we'll go out there and work out. I didn't think it was going to be a business until the end of my incarceration, when I ended up in solitary confinement.
How did those 20 guys do? Did they all lose weight?
Yeah, combined, they lost over 1,000 pounds.
Okay, so now it was, you had them exercising, you had them motivated. At the same time, were you also working on their dietary habits as well?
Nah, no, really. You know, when I tell people, a lot of people, oh, what should I be eating? I'm like, yeah, put the French fries down, pick up a salad. You know, like,
Right.
you know what to eat. Like, make better choices. You know, stop picking up the chips, pick up an apple. You know, so I think a lot of the dietary stuff could be common sense. It's not easy. It's not easy, but you got to be dedicated. You know, when you see a bowl of ice cream in your face, you're like, damn, that shit tastes good. It looks good. You know, you want to just smack your face with it. But
Right.
it's discipline. If you want it, you know, if you want to reach that goal, you know, you got to make some sacrifices.
Were you able to make better dietary choices with the choices that you were given in prison? Or is that really the hard part there? Besides, you did the hard part of exercising and got other people motivated, but was making decent dietary choices even possible in prison, or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
I mean, it's people won't believe it, but I became like pretty much a pescatarian. I was eating a lot of tuna, a lot of salmon, a lot of Jack Mac.
Okay.
And it was like fish in a can. You know, I'd stop eating like complex carbs, breads, pasta. I limit myself with like rice. I literally had like a scoop of rice once a week, you know.
Wow.
That became my diet. I was like, and then I had fruits and vegetables that I was getting through packages. So in upstate New York, you could get 35-pound packages a month if from home. So you could get family members to come up and bring you food.
So now you help these people lose over 1,000 pounds combined. When did the entrepreneur? You know, you were already an entrepreneur. Let's be honest. When you're running a business that's making $2 million a year, you're a businessman. It's just now taking that from the other side and those transferable skills and bringing it to the legitimate side of business. So you already were a businessman. You had the skills. When did you think of then using this platform to apply your business skills to create Calm Body? And for our listeners and viewers who just joined us, we've got Coss Marte with us. He's the CEO and founder of Calm Body. You can find Coss and all of his great colleagues at www.conbody.com. Coss, when did you decide then to make it a business? Because you're already a businessman. You have the skills. When did you decide this is the platform to apply those business skills to now go to the next level?
Yeah, so I was towards the end of my incarceration. I had about 2 months left towards my release. I remember being called by the officer that was at the desk in the cell block, and he said, "Hey, you got to report to the medical unit." And so I had 2 months left. I actually was on a waiting list to see a dentist for 3 years. And so I'm thinking I'm going to dental because medical over there sucks in prison. And so some people wait years, so I'm like, I'm going to go see a dentist. I go to the bathroom, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm like really hype. I'm going to get a, teeth cleanse and checked out, whatever. So I run down to the medical unit, and there was this officer there, and he stops me and he says, "This is actually a drug test." And I'm like, I haven't used drugs in a while. He was like, "Get on the wall. I got to search you." And so he's searching me very aggressively. And as he gets through like between my legs, I like twitch my waist a little bit. Because he was like roughening me up.
Right.
And so he punched me behind my head. And literally I had my arms like low to the wall. So I dropped down to the ground. I saw, black and blue. I saw stars for a second, and I got up, and I remember turning around on the officer. And as soon as I turned around, I was just trying to avoid another hit, and he pressed the button in his walkie-talkie. And so once that button is pressed, they call it a pin, is the alarm that sets the alarm for the whole prison off. So anybody in that scene needs to hit the ground face down, get ready for impact. So about a half a dozen officers come to the scene. They kicked the shit out of me. They beat me up. They shackled me up. The officer said I was attempting to assault him, and they ended sticking me in solitary. And so I was devastated. I was facing 3 more years in prison behind the situation. I had no one to speak to. All I could do in my cell is just walk back and forth. And as I'm thinking there, I hear officer coming down the tier, and they open up my slot, and they passing me a paper, pen, and an envelope. The slot is where they feed the food trays from. And so they pass me paper, pen, and an envelope. So I quickly grabbed that. I started thinking, I got to write my family. I need a lawyer. I need to, write the inspector general, to fight this case. And so I wrote out a huge letter to my family, explaining to them like what they got to do, what happened to the situation. I need a lawyer. I need to get out of here. And I remember once I closed that letter, I was like, shit, how the hell am I going to send this letter out with no stamp? And so I'm even more devastated. I feel like I felt hopeless. I literally sat on my bed and I started banging my head on the wall. And I remember like 2-3 days passed by, and I'm in there 24-hour lockdown. No rec, nothing, by myself. My sister writes me a letter, and she finds out I'm a solitary because I was constantly calling home. And and my sister's like super religious. I call her Mother Teresa's child. She writes me a letter and tells me, "I want you to read Psalm 91 from the Bible." And I was like, Bible? I don't want to read no Bible. I need a lawyer. I don't need God. And that's what's going in my head. And a couple of days went by out of boredom. All I had in my cell was the Bible. That's the only thing that they can't take away from you is whatever, a Torah, Bible, or Quran, whatever religious item you have.
Right.
it follows you around through your whole incarceration, even in solitary. And so out of boredom, I decided to pick up the Bible, a Bible that she gave me on early on in my incarceration. And I picked it up and I started searching for Psalm 91. And I read it, and it stated, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my shelter and my fortress, my God in whom I trust." And as soon as I read those words, a stamp fell out of my Bible. And it was the stamp that I needed to send this message out to my family.
Come on.
And it gave me chills, and it was crazy, the most inexpensive thing today, really gave me a different perspective, because I felt like I didn't believe in God. I was like, there's nobody above me. And I'm not a super religious person. I'm not promoting any religion, but this is what happened to me. And I felt humbled at that moment. I felt like, there has to be something bigger than myself, and so I read the Bible front to back. I really realized what I was doing was wrong. Not only affected my son, my family at the time, but the thousands of people I sold drugs to. And I said, I want to get back in some sort of way. And it started reflecting on what I was doing. And I was already helping the inmates in the yard get fit and work out. And I was like, this is what I love doing. This is what I want to do. And I started imagining myself in that prison cell, like training people outside in the yard, like I was training in the prison, but I was like imagining and like practicing and all the stuff. And I wrote like a whole mini business plan in that cell. And I was actually released a year later behind that situation. I ended up doing an extra year, but I came home and I did what I wrote. I basically went home with an idea and made it a reality.
So you got out, and now you're about 30 years old when you got out?
Yeah.
So you're 30. How do you take, again, a business plan, which there's a lot of smart people who write business plans, and make it a reality? So
I just started doing it in the park. I literally went back to nothing. I lost everything. I had 500 pairs of Jordan sneakers from my drug dealing days. And that was my startup money. I sold all the sneakers. I started like just hustling on the street and just not illegally. I was just doing anything but illegal work. And then I started going up to people in the street telling them I'm doing this fitness workout in the park. And I just kept doing it. And it was consistent that I was like, and plus I was also trying to find a job, and that was one of the most difficult things ever, because nobody wanted to hire me because of my record. But I didn't let that deteriorate my goal.
What was the business plan? If you were to send it to me right now, what would the business plan say? What was the original business plan?
Yeah, that I was going to teach a fitness boot camp class in the park, and that was like,
that was the plan.
I basically, on the business plan, I structured every day of the week for like 90 days. I did every workout. Like I made a whole spreadsheet in prison in solitary confinement. I had time to, do it.
Right.
And so I scheduled like exactly what I wanted to do when I first came home. Like I would just roll out a whole bunch of stuff. Like I would just wake up and just write to occupy my time, and then read, and then work out, and then take like bird baths because you only get 2 showers a week. So you're sweaty in 120 degrees prison cell. Like you're taking showers in a little sink, that's dribbling water. So that's what I had to do. But when I came home, I had the idea of like doing this by myself. And then I saw people that I was locked up with, people that I knew that was incarcerated, coming up with the same struggle, of trying to find a job, trying to readapt, being on welfare, not being productive to society. And I knew guys that were working out. And so I got together with the guys that I knew and that were fit, that were locked up before. And I was like, this is going to be my mission. What I want to do is hire as many people coming out of the prison system to teach the fitness classes.
when you got out of, you didn't spend the last year in solitary. You spent a little bit of time after that incident and then went back to the general population. Is that how it worked?
Yeah.
Now you're out. You've got the business plan. You're in the park. How many years ago was that?
7 years ago now.
7 years ago. So take us through now. Every business evolves, iterates, and what was originally written typically isn't what it becomes.
Yeah.
Walk us through how you evolved it, how you continually improved it, and where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it was a one-man show, me in the park, and then eventually I started hiring people, and my idea was to so I started renting out these ballet studio rooms. I was packing them out, doing these fitness classes there. I hired my first person, I hired my second person. And then as time went by, we started trying to expand and scale the business, but we thought about doing it virtually. And so we're like, all right, let's start doing videos. And so we did a couple videos here and there, didn't really pay attention to it. I was really focused on the gym at the time. And then the pandemic hit and we already had a couple library of videos and people were like, hey, can I do your workout? So people started signing up for our platform, but with videos that I shot on an iPhone 6 or iPhone 5 before. And I was like, I need to start working on better content. So I started, doing more video, and then I started doing live stream stuff. And I remember one of my CFO, who's also an investor, he was like, hey, you got to close down the gym. Cuomo just announced all gyms have to close. And I was like, F that, I'm not closing. I'm gonna make this thing happen. So I was in the studio. We had a class that was going to come in 2 hours. I started calling everybody. I was like, hey, you can't come in the gym, but I'm going to send you a Google Hangouts link. And then we revamped to Zoom, and now we have our own platform. And the rest is history. I mean, in 2020, we made more money than 2019,
So you do the virtual classes now that, we all made it through this COVID tragic period, and science is winning and people are getting vaccinated. Are you doing in-person and virtual now?
Yeah, so we have the fortune to do it simultaneously. So we install 4K cameras in the studio. While people are taking class, people could do this anywhere. So wow. Yeah, that's what we're doing. So John,
how's that working?
It's amazing. I feel like we have one of the most successful and best products on that platform, because everybody before COVID, they were using treadmills, they were using bikes. So all these fitness studios had kettlebells. So they had to revamp and be like, hey, we got to do bodyweight stuff. We were just doing bodyweight stuff. We were all about just use your own, whatever God gave you, your body. And so for us to pivot was all you need is a small constrained space to get that prison body you always desired. So we kept doing that. And it was an easy pivot for us.
How many ex-convicts, I hate to say that way, formerly incarcerated folks work for you now?
Yeah, so since I've been home, I've hired 51 formerly incarcerated individuals. I have 12 on staff right now. Yeah, I mean, anybody that's worked with me has been with me for at least 3 to 4 years, and then new people that are coming in, and anybody that's leaving, they're doing amazing stuff now. I have guys that have private contracts with Men's Health, or one of my guys is a school teacher now that teaching gym. He always wanted to work with kids, so it's been a platform where we could we have the credibility to give somebody and put that in their resume and a recommendation that they have proven and transformed their lives to do something better.
It's the bridge back to legitimate work. Whereas like you said, when you come out and you're a convicted felon, it's almost impossible to get, real employment.
Yeah. And some of these guys are making, one of my trainers last year told me he made $200,000.
That's huge.
Right.
Out of that pool of 51, those that came to work with you, and you have 12 that are there with you now, I assume the recidivism rate is a lot less than the 65% general recidivism rate that's in the United States. I assume out of 51 people, 65% have not gone back to prison.
Yeah, nobody has gone back.
So your recidivism rate out of your 51 is 0%.
Zero. And
jobs do matter. A place of employment matters.
Absolutely. There's already stats that say that once somebody starts working, it drops down to 30%. If somebody has a college education, it drops down to like less than 5%. So it just takes education and job placements to like stop taking money from your taxes to pay, to incarcerate individuals and human beings.
So I guess when Father Greg Boyle, who was my friend back in the early 90s, who we came up with Homeboy Tortillas and Homeboy Industries together, his tagline was "Nothing stops a bullet faster than a job." I guess that still stands to be true, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Coss, so now you got this great business, and I'm on your website now. For our listeners, viewers, readers that are just tuning in, we've got Coss Marte with us, the CEO, founder of CalmBody, www.calmbody.com. It's a wonderful, beautiful website, tons of information. So if I want to sign up for I listen to this podcast today, or I read about you online, and I want to sign up for one of your live classes, or I could just go to the website and sign up and log in today and participate.
Simple as that. Just go to calmbody.com, like you mentioned, CONBODY. Go to buy now right on the top right corner, and you'll see all the price options. You can live stream from wherever you're at and do the time with us.
And I see you even have free on-demand videos for people to test it out as well.
Yeah, you get a free weekly trial. So it's $14 a month. It's our pre-recorded videos, super easy to follow. You got difficult if you want to test yourself out to the next level, but we also have, stuff for starters. So don't be intimidated for anybody that wants to try it.
Coss, you've faced major mountains. There's not many people. I don't care how wide your contacts are, even for a guy like me that was involved with the Homeboys when we first started it. You don't meet a lot of people that have had your success, faced your kind of challenges, and have come out so wise and so successful on the other side. What are some of the biggest challenges on the other side when you got out of prison, when you're trying to get traction for this very great business concept that you had, and you were trying to climb that new mountain? What are some of the biggest challenges you faced there, and how did you overcome them as an entrepreneur now on the other side?
I mean, there was a lot of challenges. First of all, like once I had the money, once I made the money to open up my facility, like I was being judged by every landlord. I couldn't find space, even when I had cash in the bank and I had a proven model and I had revenue and everything, from doing it outside in the parks, renting like one-off studios here and there. Like nobody wanted to give me that chance, so because I had a criminal record. Another thing was business insurance. Did you know, like, we actually worked on this policy with Governor Cuomo's office and we changed this, but before I was starting the business, I was being quoted at $30,000 a month for business insurance because of my criminal record. I mean, there's so much, like parole issues, everything.
Let's talk about now. Okay,
we have a documentary coming out about it. That's being filmed.
When is that coming out? When is that documentary?
It should be out in Q1 next year.
Beautiful. And who's doing the documentary? She's a
4-time Academy Award director. Her name is Deborah Granick.
Wonderful. So now some exciting things are happening. You have some very fascinating and high-profile investors. Can you share some of the people who, unlike the entrepreneurs and insurance companies, said, no, I love what you're doing. I love what you represent. And I'm all in with you. And they showed their respect by writing a check. Can you explain who some of those folks are?
Yeah, I mean, it was extremely hard to get money in the bank, and that was another thing. I couldn't go to no institutional. I'm being shut down by any venture or angel, and it took me a while. I literally raised money like last year, from angels for the first time. And George Roberts was an incredible person that believed in me. He's the co-founder of KKR, huge.
Huge. That's huge.
I don't know.
Doesn't get bigger than KKR, honestly.
It's worth billions
Was
of
he a
dollars.
client of yours, and then he wrote a check, or how did
No,
that happen?
I actually joined his program. It's called Red F, out in the Bay. But yeah, they started doing like socially impacting investments and stuff like that. But he personally like wrote a check. I joined the accelerator program recently too now. Dan Rose. So he brought his network in. He was like, hey, you got to hear this guy. And so he put a whole boardroom together, and they were like, yo, I'll put money in here. I'll put money in here. So from there, it just started escalating. And I was like, damn, I've been pitching for the last like 6 years, 6 years. And
it all comes together.
And it comes together with just one guy snapping his fingers, you know what I mean? So he believed in me. And then other people that, family, friends, we also did like a family friends round alongside with them. We did like a whole, like a crowdfunding type of.
Are you still raising capital, or you've closed out that round?
That round is closed. That was last year to just like really revamp the online platform, get new videos out there. And so now I'm taking it to the next level and raising more capital at a 12 money pre-money valuation, $12 million pre-money valuation.
Right.
But yeah, we're in the works of that. We have hopefully like $500,000 left to close the round out, and we should be closed pretty soon. So, John, if you want to get on board, let me know.
Okay, and those who are watching this podcast or listening to it, remember, Coss is right on that. You can find Coss on the website on www.calmbody.com. Where's your studio in New York City, by the way?
We're actually in the Lower East Side.
Lower East Side.
5 blocks away. I'm at home right now, but we're 5 blocks away from here. And
got it.
Yeah.
So good. So your studio, so people could actually go in to the studio, take a class in the studio, or they could be traveling anywhere on business or living in a different city and still take your live classes direct from your studio.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So, you're raising this next round. You mentioned something to me before we went on the air. Are we allowed to talk about your upcoming trip to LA, or that's not allowed to be?
Yeah, I had to sign NDAs.
Okay, we're not talking about that then. We'll talk about that after you come back and after that airs and stuff like that. Talk a little bit of what's your dream after this round gets closed, Coss. What are you going to do with the money, and where does your business now go to the next level?
So what we're doing right now is offering a B2B offering. So we're going up to big corporations and having them subsidize their employees' health and workout.
And how does that work? Explain. I'm an employer. How does it work? Pretend you're pitching me today. How does that work?
So if you have like 100 employees, we'll sell you a package for $10 to $14 per month. You'll also get the on-demand, and then on top of that, you'll get the live stream. So any of your employees could work out on our time zone 5 days a week, 5 times a day. I mean, and so you have unlimited access to all that stuff.
So as opposed to so instead of B2C, so it's a discounted version because you're buying in a package, opposed to me just signing up for which is the B2C version. I sign my company up. I say I have 200 employees. They get a discounted version on a package deal, but now they could go on their laptop or desktop or iPad or something of that nature, tablet, and they could tune into any of your on-demand classes or live classes on their own schedule and get healthy.
And then also be involved, like I feel like a lot of companies that are trying to figure out how to be socially responsible, give back through the criminal justice system. Like we're actually battling with giving people an opportunity to give back to society in a certain way. So not only you're helping somebody coming out of the prison system, but you're also helping yourself. So it's a win-win situation.
Well, you're right. I mean, one of the biggest 3-letter acronyms that have become massive and they're going to continue to grow during the course of your business life, and even now, as I'm on the other side, ESG is where it's all at: environmental, social, and governance. And on the governance level, that means diversity and inclusivity and making the world a better place, not just taking from the world. And I think because now we're all living C-suites and board of directors and publicly traded companies are very concerned with their ESG values and their diversity and inclusivity values. I think your kind of program is a brilliant way to, again, prove, not just talk, but prove that the leadership really cares about their employees and their health and wellness. And as you said, doing something good, because you're also helping people have a 0% recidivism rate, which, by the way, that's a hell of a success rate. That's a hell of a success rate, Coss.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good for you, man. What else am I missing here? What else do you want to share that sets you apart from everybody else? This documentary is going to come out. When people watch this documentary, what do you want them to take away? The documentary's over, the lights go up, and now what's the first thought after I've watched the documentary? What do you want me to come away with after I've watched your life story up on a screen?
Not only be inspired to work out with us, but also be an advocate and get involved with the criminal justice space. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in changing these policies. There's over 40,000 regulations against people that have been incarcerated. For somebody that got involved in the criminal justice space and got locked up at 13 years old, when the judge told me, oh, you just need to cop out to probation, they didn't tell me, that I was going to I couldn't vote at the time. I couldn't, get a job at the time. Now I'm regulated to do certain things. Now I have to do this and that. And so there's over 40,000 regulations. Like, let's tackle those one at a time, and let's figure out how to really integrate individuals coming back into the system and have a fair playing field,
I agree. And we should all at least, not only a fair playing field, but at least create an equal starting line. Everyone's got to have a chance.
Yeah.
Now, the finish line's different because everyone's going to put in a different amount of effort.
Mm-hmm.
But the starting line's got to be fair for everybody. And it's not today. I want to ask you another question, though, very personal, about your solitary confinement. I had a guest on the show. She's a famous Hollywood producer. She did one of her movies was The Defiant Ones with
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine. Great series on HBO, and I'm sure you've seen it or at least heard of it.
Yep.
But she fell in love with advocating for change in the criminal justice system after going to a prison and seeing some of as you said, some of the wrongs that needed to be righted. And one of the things that she took up was the issue of solitary confinement and how truly it's inhuman and the negative impact that it has. Is that your experience as well, Coss? Is it really something that needs to be advocated and changed greatly within the criminal justice system and incarceration?
Absolutely. It messed up my psyche at the time. I, taken therapy and all that stuff to help me get through the situations. But, total, I've spent 8 months in solitary, my life.
Wow.
And it's not easy, to be in that situation, trapped. You can't speak to anybody. You're being fed through, a little slot, and it's just inhuman to not communicate. We were born and we were raised to be social human beings, to be together in a family, and so segregate somebody and detach them, from the population. It's just you're being treated like not even animals should be treated that way. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Coss, how old are you now, Coss?
I'll be 37 this year.
So young guy. And for entrepreneurs, that's considered super young. Some entrepreneurs don't start businesses till they're 40, 45, and they become billionaires. 50. Ray Kroc was 55 when he started McDonald's. So Take me through. You have so much blue sky and runway in front of you. How big can this grow? How big what's your dream look like here? And where am I going to see you in 5 years from now in terms of growing Conbody?
I definitely want to be competing with Peloton. I want to IPO. I want to be like you, John.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah, I want to be at that level, and I also want to disrupt fitness and change the way like how we see things. I don't want to be that typical vanity type of feeling. Every company that you see out there says that they promise you that you're going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days, and it's all about looking good. But I think most important, you got to be feeling good, and you got to dedicate time to yourself.
So tell me, I have all those fitness machines in my house. I love fitness. I'm a true believer in eating right, working out every day. I'm 58 years old. I still feel like I'm 30. I'm on an elevator with you. We're in Manhattan. We get on the elevator together, and I look at you and say, hey, I think I saw you on television. Tell me what your business is. We're going to the 30th floor. What's the business pitch? We know there's Peloton out there. We know there's Mira. We know there's Hydro. Since you're in that on-demand live classes business, how do you now pitch yourself among those other machine-oriented businesses? How do you pitch yourself when we're on an elevator together?
First of all, we're cheaper than all those other products, and they're more successful. Right. You see more productivity by yourself. But what we do is a Conbody. Conbody is a prison-style boot camp where we hire people coming out of the prison system to teach fitness classes. So if you really want to get that Conbody you desired, all you need is a small constrained space, your body weight, and work out with your favorite formerly incarcerated individual to get that prison body you desire. Dedicate that time. And
is it only classes, or is it one-on-one too if I want it?
If you want personal training, we can set you up with one of our trainers.
You can do either one. So our listeners, our viewers who want to support, who want to get involved, they could either get their business to get involved or their organization, or they could sign up for one-on-one classes as well.
Absolutely.
Or sign up for the group classes as well.
Yep.
Coss, you're gonna be the next big superstar. There's just no way this doesn't become super big, and I can't wait to follow the journey and keep having you back on the Impact Podcast. And I'm going to come to New York City. I'm going to come to New York, I think in July. I think I'm going to sign up and I'm going to come to one of your classes. That's what I'm going to do.
We'll see if we can keep up, John. Let's see.
No, I think I'm going to have to learn to keep up, but I want to come and really get the firsthand. I want to get the real right person.
Yeah, we built the studio to look like a prison, so
that's okay.
You go in there, you get your mugshot, and you open that prison gate, you get in the door, and you do the time.
And what's the class look like? When I go in there, is it going to be people my age, younger, older? What's it? Tell me what to expect. I want my listeners to understand, and my viewers to know.
Mostly like 20 to 40-year-olds. So you're on that older spectrum, but my mom is 67. She was doing this pre-pandemic 4 times a week, and right. She was knocking out burpees like it was nothing, but she's been doing the video on demand stuff in her apartment. She's trying to get her back out of COVID and getting her back in the studio. But yeah, we it's made for everybody and all shapes. I have currently one guy who lost 40 pounds in 2 months with me right now.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been going hard. He's 320 pounds. He started at 322. And now he's 280, like around 280-ish. So,
I'm serious. I'm going to come and I want to really get it firsthand, because then I can be a better evangelist and better ambassador. How many people per class in the classrooms?
So right now we're just hosting 16 people in a class. We're looking to expand that after people get a little bit more comfortable with coming in. But if you don't feel comfortable coming in, you could just live stream from home. We got the camera there. We'll be screaming at you, just like this, and seeing you in a two-way experience as well.
That's great. For our listeners and viewers, again, to sign up or to get your business involved, or for you to get your family members involved, or give a gift certificate and get one of a loved one signed up, go to www.conbody.com. He's Coss, Marte, He's changing the world. He's making the world a better place, Coss. I am so grateful for your time today. I'm so grateful for the message that you shared with our listeners and your journey. Your journey's fascinating. You are the Rocky Balboa of your generation. We're going to be following your story, and I'm betting big on you to hit it big in the entrepreneur world. Thank you for being on the Impact Podcast. Thank you for making the world a better place.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate you.
This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by Engage. Engage is a digital booking platform revolutionizing the talent booking industry. With thousands of athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and business leaders, Engage is the go-to spot for booking talent for speeches, custom experiences, live streams, and much more. For more information on Engage or to book talent today, visit letsengage.com.